Oh my God, this is the forever evolving story. So this is an add-on to the last few. And they just showed it. Oh my God. Because remember I had said like, well, this experience had happened to me in this lifetime, but it's no longer present. So then I was like, well, maybe it means past lifetimes too. But meaning it's like I kind of gave up the hope maybe, which is funny because I told you not to do that. But it wasn't even that. It wasn't that I'd given up the hope. It was that, let's just keep going with that so you can understand, where it was like person A is my lover, who I wanted as my lover, who feels amazing on every level. And person B was my muse. And all of us were confused by everybody's position, so to speak, because there wasn't that clarity brought to it and those names brought to it, to those labels, so that we all can have a comprehension of it. And so, yet, A, my lover, ended up having another lover. So I let him go because it was like, oh, well then, I love myself too much and I want you to love yourself. If that's who you want, go for it, And God, I don't know if you remember it had to have been at least a year ago, but I think it was even 2 years ago, they kept showing me, and funny, they used A, B, and C like this too. They kept showing me like person A wanted person B, but person B wanted person C, and person C wanted person D. So it was like all these people were chasing. It was kind of like the wrong person. So this idea, yeah. So they're bringing that back up here in this scenario where it's like everybody was with the wrong person or chasing the wrong person because of their own confusion and delusion of who was the lover, the true love, the true unconditional love, and who was the muse, which is, for lack of better words, less than, where it's not about less than or greater than. It's not authentic. It's not real unconditional love. It's imagination, fantasy, lust, all these things. It can unlock things within one's mind, and yet it's not real authentic love. It's not what you really desire. It's not what you want in your day-to-day life, so to speak. It's not the foundation. It's not truth. And so, of course there has to be, it's a clarification, rules, boundaries, understanding brought to all of that. So people understand it and don't get disillusioned into going into la fantasy land and making that their reality. And then that's what turns into toxic nightmares. And so, and yet one has to be open-minded enough and understanding enough and experienced enough of their own life to understand these labels and dynamics to truly get them. Otherwise, people don't get them and don't understand them and they don't believe you because they've never experienced it to understand it. And so, shit. I'm trying to think how they showed me again, that it was like, so who I was using as A, my lover, ended up going back to their B, their muse, thinking their muse was real, right? Real love. And so it is like everybody chasing the wrong tail, so to speak, and not understanding these dynamics. And so A was thinking I was B, right? Their muse. And I was thinking my B, my muse, was my A for a long time. So we were both flipped. We were both flip-flopped. And so it's coming to that clarity that those labels, simply for clarification, I don't love labels, but at the same time, they can serve us when we need to quantify or understand within one's own mind just to gain footing and stability to, it's like have something to anchor in and build from. And very interesting. So in what they're showing, So remember that. So they're showing. Okay. So remember how they were showing A was chasing B, B was chasing C, C was chasing D, and then after some time, it probably was 6 months or a year, or maybe two later, they showed everybody flopping, right? Like then turning and chasing the wrong way. In other words, then everybody flipped. So it was like, well, A was chasing B and B was C and C and D. Well, then D turned to chase C, but C had already turned to chase B and B had already turned to chase A. So it was like, it was almost like, in the sense, too late, in that by the time people turned around to face who they were chasing, the other person had already turned around. They were no longer chased. You see what I'm saying? And so there's that. And so then they're now showing it's like folding inward. It's like folding inward in that, again, in my scenario, it was like A was truth, pure, it was real love, but I was chasing B, the muse, the fake, the fantasy, and A went back to his muse, to his B, to his illusion and fantasy, but it's not his truest heart's desire. It wasn't real, it wasn't authentic, it wasn't true. And so it's like now both A's have turned inward. They've folded in and realized they're folding into one another. And recognizing they still have love for B because they love B for what it is. They recognize B for what it is, not truth or clarity. And it's the fantasy, it's the muse, it's the unlocking of that portion of them, but it's not... And in that outside unlocking that portion of them, it also allows them to experience that in real time with truth, with unconditional love. I'm like using my hands here and I'm trying to verbalize it all, but I hopefully you could hear it. I think that's what happens oftentimes too, is I'm trying to explain and show what they're showing me. I don't know that it comes out as clear. Like it's clear for me because I can see it and I think I'm explaining it. But somebody else could listen to this and not understand a word I'm saying. That's what I always wonder. I'd like you to give me some clarity. I wish you would all reach out and ask questions, or... I guess it's kind of hard to do, isn't it? Especially when they're showing this to me in real time and I'm explaining it and understanding it in real time and integrating it. But sometimes some of these visions are so specific and real. But say you listen to this in a year from now, I might not remember this vision to know what you're talking about. So you would have to ask me in real time. Anyway, okay. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. You can now purchase an audio journey with me using the link below.